There are people who can do professional title cards. I am not one of them. This is a thoroughly amateur production, as you saw, and I do things in a thoroughly amateur way. Today, I'm making a video based on the question, how do you taste whiskey? And one thing I found about whiskey, and I put it into a maxim, an axiom, a saying, however you want to describe it. Good whiskey is sipping whiskey. Now, if you want to just chug your whiskey, if you have a $200 bottle of whiskey and you just want to do shots, fine. It's your whiskey. You can do with it whatever you please, but you're missing the point, and you're missing the goodness of the whiskey. Today, I keep flipping back and forth between my notes and the camera. Today, I want to go into how to really enjoy whiskey, how to taste whiskey, how to sip whiskey. And I have a bottle of Old Granddad Bonded. I did an online review of it, or I did a review of it last night, which I posted on distiller.com and a couple of places on MeWe. This is at least 4 years old. It's 100 proof. Those things are requirements for bonded whiskey. And it's not very expensive. This bottle was $24.49 at the Uptown Total Wine store here in Albuquerque. And you can get good whiskey for not a whole ton of money. You can also get junk, obviously. But there are some whiskeys out there that for $20 or $30, you can get very high quality. My favorite whiskey is a $30 bottle. So, obviously you need whiskey, and you need a glass. I use the Glencairn. It's a Scottish invention. They invented it to taste Scotch with, Scottish whiskey, but it works for any sort of whiskey. That's the beauty of it. There are wine glasses specifically designed for wine tasting. There are brandy glasses specifically designed for drinking brandy. And this is the very first glass specifically designed for whiskey. My allergies don't love me today. Now, you can use whatever glass you want. You can use an ordinary water glass. You can use a rocks glass. You can use a wine glass. Even today in Scotland, there are blenders who use what they call a copita. It means little cup, and it's kind of a wine glass, and it has this basic shape to it. And the reason for the shape is this wide part gives a wide surface area for the evaporation of the alcohol, and when the alcohol evaporates, it brings the aromas with it. And then the narrow top concentrates that so you can get a good nose, as they call it. The base is the only awkward part of it. When you're picking it up, because of the nature of things, I have to fake it. It's kind of awkward to pick up off of the surface, but you can hold it this way. Some people, at least to swirl it, hold it this way, which is real awkward for me. You can hold it like so. Richard Patterson, who I believe he's retired now, was the master blender for White and Mackay in Glasgow, Scotland. He's a funny guy, and he says, if I ever catch you holding it like this, I'll have to kill you, because you don't want to hold it like this. It's a loose grip, but you can hold it right there, in this fashion. I'm not going to pour as much as I normally would. This is a video, not my nightly whiskey glass. And that's enough to give us some indication of what we're dealing with. And personally, I wouldn't mind if all whiskey was a screw top. In various ways, they work better. But the cork is traditional, and we have them. So the first thing you can do is look at the color, and the setup I have is not good for that. But it's kind of a copper gold color. Then you can look at the legs, and the way I've come to do it is I turn the glass on its side and do this. Gives a nice smooth even coating to the inside of the glass. And I don't know if you'll be able to see with this camera, but where the whiskey is, that line there, it's beginning very slowly to form what they call legs, where it'll run down the glass in separate streams. And there's a whole scientific reason why it does that. It has to do with the relative evaporation and viscosity of water and alcohol. About all that can tell you really is how viscous the whiskey is, maybe how oily, but I like to look at it. But next we want to swirl it, and this is going to agitate it. It'll help the aromas come off the whiskey, and that's how a lot of people get to the legs. I've found that when I do it, it gives an uneven kind of a mountain range effect on the line, whereas when I do this, it's more even. But to swirl it, or just when you swirl it, it gives you that release of the aromas. And then you come to nose the whiskey, and that just means using your nose. Now, my right nostril is almost useless. It can pretty much smell only alcohol. And most people, one nostril will be more effective than the other. And so you'll see some people doing this. I don't do that. If that's what works for you, then great. But I just kind of put it up more to the left side. And at first, you don't get too close. And you're not going, but you're just breathing, but keep your mouth just a little open as you breathe through your nose. And I'm getting a citrus note there. And by the way, this is what I'm going to get today may be very different from what I got last night when I did my review of this. And listen to I don't know if you can hear it, the nice crystal ring of this. But different times, different days, whiskey tasting is very subjective. And the same person with the same whiskey can get different results depending on a number of factors. Yeah, there's definitely a citrus note in there, and maybe orange. And with practice, you can differentiate things better. I've got a video coming up. Let's see. I'm on number 7 now, and this will be number 17, so 10 videos further on. Do people really smell and taste all these things they say they do? I could tell you right here, yes, but in that video we'll go into more detail. Got the citrus, as I say, going a little deeper. And I have to be careful of the right nostril or the alcohol will burn it. Well, that's all I'm getting right now. I know there's more there. There's kind of a musty, dusty note of some sort. I'm getting something grainy. And the allergies again. Either other people on YouTube don't have some of the difficulties I do physically, or they edit. I don't have editing facilities. There's some corn in there. That's all I'm getting right now. And there's a trick that I don't know just how useful it is. Some people do it. sniff your elbow, it supposedly resets your nose because that's your own natural smell. Well, that's all I'm getting right now, so I'll sip it. And it's going to be just a little sip. And on that sip, I mainly got vanilla. Now, you might have noticed, I don't know how clearly it comes through on the camera, and I didn't do it as much as I normally do, but I kind of move it around in my mouth. I want to let it reach different parts of my tongue, the roof of my mouth, the sides, even under my tongue. And that's to allow different areas of taste buds to go to work, because you taste certain things on certain parts of your tongue, which go together. Your brain integrates them into the single one taste of, say, meatloaf. I don't like meatloaf, but it's what came to mind. And so just on that little sip, for the short time I had it in my mouth, I got, I don't even remember what I said. Did I say vanilla? Whatever I got. And so this time I'm going to do another sip, and I'm going to give it a better treatment. I did get vanilla. I also tasted some corn in there. And it's a generic corn. Sometimes you'll get specific corn tastes, like roasting ears or sweet corn. Last night I can't remember if it was on the nose or, as we say, on the palate, but I got a corn tortilla note, which was really interesting. I'd never gotten that from a whiskey before. I'm also, as I tasted, getting a definite oaky taste, and I didn't get that last night, and I missed it because I like the taste of the oak barrel. I'm sure eventually I'll find a whiskey that has too much oak in it. I haven't yet. Now I'm going to nose it again. And now I'm picking up just a very faint woody note. That's all I'm getting. I've just gotten up, and so my faculties are not fully awake. But this was the best time for me to do this video. I have to work around my schedule and my wife's schedule because I don't like disturbing her when she's doing something or when she's asleep. Well, I'm not getting much more, so I'm going to try another sip, and this time I'm going to focus on the finish. We have the nose, the taste or the palate, and we have the finish, which you can call the aftertaste, and you get that a lot in the back of your throat, or in the back of your mouth, although it does have effects all over your mouth. And sometimes the finish for me is the best part of the whiskey. That's a definitely nutty finish. I think it's peanuts. Sometimes it can be difficult to differentiate things, but it's a definitely nutty taste. There's some oak in there on the finish, little bit of spiciness, which is not surprising on the label. Let me switch over to where I can see the camera. Right here, it says it's a high rye mash bill, If I remember right from last night, it's 27% rye. All bourbon has to be 51% corn at least. This, if I remember right, is 63% corn, 27% rye, and then the rest barley. The barley they put in there mainly for the enzymes, although it does add some flavor. But rye provides spice in a whiskey. And so a high rye bourbon is going to be spicier, as a rule, than a low rye bourbon, which in turn will be spicier than a wheated bourbon. And I don't know. I may at some point talk about the different kinds of bourbon. I have a whole slew of videos planned out. And if you have questions about something, put them in the comments of any of the videos I've uploaded, and I'll compile them at some point I want to do a video just answering questions from people who watch the videos. But the finish then is nutty, peanuts probably, although I'm not certain. It has oak in it. And then as I was tasting that, I got some honey, which for me is very typical of a bourbon. A bourbon, because it uses so much corn, tends to be a sweet whiskey. Well, I'm not getting anything new on the nose. I got some lemon on the taste. And more oak on the finish this time. And that'll be all I drink of that, because as I say, I'm not drinking my glass. I'm doing a video of this whiskey, or of how to taste whiskey. And so I'm not going to finish even what I have in the glass. I'm going to put it into my infinity bottle. But that is very brief, and experience will show you more than I ever could in a video or even in a book. But you want to have a good glass. You can use whatever glass you want, but you want to have a good glass to make the experience better, to concentrate the aromas and the taste for you. You want to have a good whiskey. This is a pretty good whiskey for $25. There are whiskeys that I've had that cost more and aren't any better. Although it wouldn't surprise me if some of these really high dollar whiskeys are very good. You can also get good whiskey without breaking the bank. And you want to take your time. You want to swirl it and get the aroma rising. You want to enjoy that aroma. You want to enjoy that taste. And at 100 proof, there's alcohol in this bottle. No question. One of these days, it's out of stock now. I want to try the old Granddad 114. This is 100 proof. The 114 is 114 proof, 14 proof points higher. That's 57% alcohol by volume, if you think in those terms. But you want to have good whiskey, you want to have a good glass, and you want to take your time. If all you want to do is shoot shots, get a shot glass, get Jack Daniels, bam, you're drunk, big fat hairy deal. What's the point? You have a headache the next day. And it may be that certain kinds of liquor have different effects on the headache and on the whole hangover. But the only way to avoid a hangover is don't get drunk. And it doesn't matter what you get drunk on, there will be a hangover. That's the nature of it. But if you want to enjoy whiskey, the glass, the whiskey, take your time, nose it, look at the color, enjoy the aroma, enjoy the taste. When I fill my glass up from my nightly glass, it's right about there, and it can take me anywhere from an hour to 2 hours to finish that, because I'm not trying to get drunk. I'm trying to enjoy the whiskey. Well, that's about all I have to give on that subject, unless I make a 4-hour video, and you probably wouldn't watch it. This one's 20 minutes, so I'm just going to end it. If you want to subscribe, feel free. I'd love it. If you want to like the video, feel free. I'd love it. If you have questions, put them in the comments. And as I say, at some later date, when I have a bunch of questions to answer, I'll do a video on those. In the meantime, the Thoroughly Amateur production has a thoroughly amateur ending.